Kyoku Tenshin Ora Changer! What up, everybody? It's Blackwing 2040. Welcome to another Super Sentai review, and today's review is going to be on Gosei Sentai Dairanger, the show that came out in 1993, and this season also gave us the fight footage and one suit and the megazords for MMPR Season 2. Now, I have a huge admiration for this show because this was the very first Super Sentai that I watched from beginning all the way to the end. I got around into watching Super Sentai in 2016, right when Zyuohger was airing, but I wasn't watching Zyuohger at the time. So, for myself, I decided I wanted to check out Dairanger because I really love the suits. And I have a blast with this show. And I hold the show to a high standard. Granted, it does have a few hiccups in the show. No show is perfect. But again, it didn't change my opinion of the show because the show is still GOAT. I know I'm just saying that in the beginning of the review, but the show is GOATed regardless. So let's talk about the synopsis of the show. Over 8,000 years ago, the Daigo civilization flourished in southern China. The Daigo's empire consisted in 3 tribes, Dai, Shura, and Gorma, who lived harmoniously. However, one day the Gorma tribe tried to take over the empire. Thus began the war between the Gorma and the Dai tribe. The battle continued for 5,000 years, led by the Gorma triumvirate. The mystical Ki beasts appeared to oppose the Gorma, whose magical powers had increased to the point where they could turn themselves into monsters. 5 Dai warriors' Ki powers had increased to the point where they could control the mystical Ki beasts. The war ended with the disappearance of both the Dai and Gorma tribes. In 1993, the Gorma tribe, one of the Daigo's 2 missing branches, revived to take over the world. To counter them, Master Kaku assembled a team of 5 youths with high levels of Ki. They become the Dairangers of the present time. So that's just the main synopsis of the show within itself. Now, let's talk about the theme song. I love this theme song. This is one of the best theme songs in Sentai history. It is up there as one of the best theme songs. If you don't believe me, sit down and listen to the whole theme song from beginning to end. You will not be disappointed because it is a toe tapper. It is a jam. The song slaps. Anytime the intro comes on or anytime it gets put into a fight scene, it goes hard. That's how awesome the theme song is. Now, on to the suits. The suits, I love these suits. These suits are amazing. I love the martial arts aesthetic of the show. And just, the not training geese, the vests for the Ranger suits. It looks amazing. You got the symbol of the team on the right side. Yeah, on the left side, on the left side of the chest. And for Kiba Ranger, his suit is a little bit different from the others, but a little similar is that his symbol is on the chest, right here front and center. And of course, I love the aesthetic of the helmets, which shows which Ki beast that they have. It is just beautifully aesthetically pleasing. I love the suits. They're so great. And not only that, the weaponry, I know I don't talk about weapons in reviews, but I just have to mention the weaponry in the show. Chef's kiss. It is so beautiful. It fits the aesthetic of the show very well. You have them fighting with bow staffs, rods with different arrowheads at the top. You have them fighting with nunchucks, swords, spears. It is just amazing. Just amazing. Straight up amazing. So now, let's start talking about our characters. First up with the Rangers, the Dairangers. See what I did there? Our first Ranger is Ryo, aka Ryo Ranger. He is the leader of the team, very passionate and a strong martial artist. He can be a bit of a hothead sometimes, but not too much of a hothead. But he's a very passionate individual about everything that he does. He can be a loner to an extent, but that does not prevent him from trying to get the job done and lead the team and winning the day. And I love Ryo. He's one of my all-time favorite Sentai Reds. As soon as I watched this show, he easily became one of my favorites. He's up there as like one of my top 5 of the Sentai Reds. And fun fact, the actor who plays Ryo, he's a martial artist in real life, and originally he auditioned for the role of Kirin Ranger, the Yellow Ranger, but apparently he decided to get cast as the Red Ranger. So it would have been interesting. That would have been a weird, that would be kind of not weird, but kind of an interesting switch up, if I might say. But Ryo, he is a phenomenal fighter. He's a straight beast at martial arts, straight up. I definitely love his character. Now on to the next character, Daigo, aka Shishi Ranger. Daigo is one of my favorite Green Sentai Green Rangers. I may be just be saying that, but I'm being very, very serious. Daigo is the goat of the goats when it comes to Sentai Greens. Unfortunately, I had to mention this. His actor passed away back in 2017, but his memory still lives on. Now, Daigo as a character, he's a very passionate and caring individual. Anytime you see somebody who gets their heart broken, he steps in and he does not hold back. That is his breaking point. If he sees anybody whose heart gets broken, tortured at any point, Daigo is going to step in and set those Gorma off right. And I love his character. I love his development. I love his energy. Of course, he can have his chill moments sometimes, but if anything, when Ryo's not around, Daigo is definitely second in command to run the team, and he does a phenomenal job of it. And I'm straight up being honest about that. Daigo is a force to be reckoned with, and don't take his kindness for granted, ever. All right, next up on the list is Shoji, aka Tenma Ranger. Shoji can be a goofball to a certain extent, but he's also a hothead. There's some moments where Ryo and Shoji may clash, and usually in Sentai, Reds and Blue Rangers tends to have a strong connection. These two, they clash on occasion, but they are not without their faults. And Shoji, he can be much of a goofball himself, but he is a passionate fighter. He's a very athletic individual, and he's okay. He's not the worst Blue Ranger, but he's just okay. He's not bad. I'm not saying that. He is far from bad. He is really, really good. And when he gets that burning heart of desire to fight, you better back up, because Shoji will put you down straight up. All right, next is Kazu, aka Kirin Ranger. Kazu, I feel like he doesn't get that much focus episodes in the show as well, but he's good. He's a good character. I just wish they could have done a little bit more, giving him some kind of focus, developing his character as well. And there are some instances in episodes you would either see him paired up with Shoji from time to time, and that's it. And sometimes him on his off when he's not fighting, he's training to be a beautician. He works at a hair salon, which is very interesting. You don't really see that for Rangers. But he's a cool character. I just wish there was a little bit more development and usage for him. That's my only issue. All right, next up is Rin, aka Ho-Oh Ranger. She's the only girl on the team. She's kind of the only one that keeps the guys in check whenever they act, snobbish or goof all the time. But Rin, she's a really good Pink Ranger. She's a really good Ranger. There's some points where she is kind of like the older sister to the next Ranger I'm about to mention, Ko, but I'm going to get to him in a second. But Rin is a very good person. She's strong, she's kind, extremely nice, and just straight up a force to be reckoned with. So never get on her bad side, and she's always willing to just be she's very much the dependable person on the entire team, straight up. And I love her for that. She's a really great character. All right, the last Ranger on the team is Ko, aka Kiba Ranger. Now, this is my third time watching Dairanger. I remember when I first started watching the show, I hated Ko so much. Because the reason why I didn't like him, because this kid is so perverted. He's always just it just irks my skin to even mention his actions. Like he touches Rin, he touches her boobs to a certain extent. It was just very, very annoying. I couldn't stand his character. However, when the story arcs that he goes through, it definitely is a shift for him. He definitely matures. He steps away from his childish antics, and he's able to focus as a ranger and as a hero. Because Ko has a very important focal point, and this kind of goes important where I have to mention his mother. his mother abandoned him. Well, not really. Yeah, she kind of abandoned him as a kid because he was born with Gorma blood in him. So Ko's mother married a Gorma, and I'm going to mention him later on as I go through the characters. And that makes Ko being half of the Dai tribe and half Gorma tribe at the same time. So she branded him with a tiger tattoo, which is supposed to suppress his Gorma bloodline. But of course, the point of the plot line is that when he gets to his 10th birthday, that's when the tiger tattoo will disappear and Ko will become a full Gorma. So that was a very key focal plot point in the show. And I loved it. And to be honest, despite Barai being the first Sixth Ranger in Super Sentai, I feel like Ko was a step up. Yes, Ko was a kid, but he got so much more to do than Barai did. Barai was pretty much sidelined majority of the show. And I hate to be comparing one Sixth Ranger to another, two different shows, but I have to say Ko is the better Sixth Ranger than Barai. And that's just straight being the truth. All right. Now let's talk about the mentor, Master Kaku. Now, Master Kaku, he's up there as one of the best Sentai mentors ever. But the twist is, and this caught me off guard when I first watched the show, Master Kaku is actually originally part of the Gorma tribe. He wanted to bring the Gorma into an era of peace and not violence and evil. So when it came down to the point where he always disappeared, the Rangers asked him where did he disappear to, even stepping up to the palace of the Gorma, because they already knew he used to be one. He used to be one of them. So when he had to separate the team and disband them, but it was for a good reason. My only issue is it makes for a good story of betrayal. He should have told the team what he was doing. If he was straight up with the Rangers in the beginning saying, like, I was originally part of the Gorma tribe, but I was trying to bring them into an era of peace. The other Gorma didn't want that. So I left, I defected, and became part of the Daigo's tribe. So but it's still a good story plot line regardless. And Master Kaku is a really, really cool character. Of course, his death still hits me. His death was a very heavy toll for the Rangers. Really, really dope though. Now, on to the next supporting character. I want to talk about this character named Cameo. So, if you guys look at Cameo, yes, you will see that is Raita from Jetman. You have a lot of characters from Jetman portraying characters here in Dairanger. So, Cameo, dude, I could say straight up, he's obsessed with turtles. But the interesting about his character is that he's a descendant of a Zord called Daimugen. Basically, if you guys watch MMPR Season 2, he's basically Tor, the Shuttle Zord. So, Cameo, he does make a lot more interactions with Kazu from time to time. And whenever the Rangers are in a pinch, Cameo transforms into Daimugen and they perform. They transform into basically the Ultra Zord of the show. And Cameo, he's okay. I just felt like if he's going to be like, not really an antithesis, but a supporting character for Kazu, I wish they did it a little bit more and had them interact more, especially with him being, quote unquote, the 7th member of the team, even though he's basically a Zord. I just wish they did a little bit more with him. That's all. Now, on to the next character, Kujaku. Now, Kujaku is basically the avatar of the Peacock Buddhist. And Daigo is very much in love with her. And straight up, their key power are pretty much in sync majority of the time whenever they interact. So when Kujaku first comes onto the scene, she, of course, thanks the Dairangers from freeing her because she was kidnapped inside one of the Gorma monsters. Until that monster was defeated, Kujaku was freed. Now, for most of her time, she had a grudge against one of the generals, the Gorma generals. And again, I'm going to get to her in a minute. But I feel like they did a big switcheroo with the plot line between her and the Gorma general that she has a grudge against. However, the episodes between her and Daigo, because every time Kujaku shows up, it's always a Daigo-focused episode. And I love their interaction. I love how much he cares for her and she cares for him, because Daigo is the one that kind of brought Kujaku out of that, phase of anger and hatred and back to a kind-hearted individual that she is. And then when it came point where she had to leave, well, not leave, where she got killed off and had to ascend into the as the Peacock Queen, of course it hurt Daigo, but he knew that it was time for her to go, and steps had to be made, and he had to take what he can and accept the loss. But of course, he remembers the good times that he spent with her. Kujaku's a really cool character. Now, on to Ko's mother. I know I mentioned her before previously when I was talking about Ko, but here's the thing about Ko's mother. She married a Gorma general who I'm about to mention. Actually, I'll mention him now. She married the Gorma villain, Shada, who was also the main villain of the show. Both of them got married. They both had 2 kids. So the rule is within the Gorma is that the youngest had to get killed. But unfortunately, she decided to abandon the youngest one and focus more on Ko. So to protect Ko from getting killed, this is where the plotline got extremely, extremely wonky. Her second child is named Akumaru. Akumaru is more so on the Gorma side, and of course, Ko more on the side of the Dairangers. And whenever Ko and Akumaru face each other, they were always at odds with each other. Literally, Akumaru just wanted to put Ko down to the ground, and there were extents to the point where Akumaru wanted to pretty much surpass his father. And Shadam hates Akumaru with a burning passion. I kid you not, Shadam is really an asshole of a villain, straight up. Now, this is very back and forth with these characters, but I just had to mention Akumaru as a whole. He's evil, but at the same time, once he finds out that Ko's mother is also his mother, it's kind of too late for him to even redeem himself, because with Shadam trying to, defeat his son in this bitter rivalry between father and son, it doesn't end well for both parties at all. Ko's mother dies, Akumaru also dies, and Ko has to live with the sadness of a brother that he never knew that he actually had, and he never got to know well, but he spent most of the show fighting. So it's kind of a tragic end for Ko, and of course for Akumaru in the end. So again, with Shadam, we're just going to strictly focus on Shadam now. Like I said, he's an asshole. He wants to become leader of the Gorma army. He wants to bring the Gorma army to take over the world out of this era of peace that Master Kaku wants to bring in. And Shadam does not play fair. He is dirty. He fights dirty straight up. But he is a fierce foe. He is a great villain. He's definitely up there as one of the best Sentai villains, straight up. Now, on to Gaara. Now, Gaara is the villain that Kujaku has a grudge over, because between these two, this is the history. When Gaara and Kujaku were children, a pillar fell on top of Gaara and Kujaku, but Gaara kind of shielded Kujaku from getting crushed. But in doing so, that left a scar on her face. And since then, Gaara had a huge grudge on Kujaku because she was always the beautiful one. Everyone wanted to be friends with her. No one wanted to be friends with Gaara because of that scar on her face. Just because of a scar. Very interesting. So years and years later, these two are at it with each other. They become fierce foes. And then when it came to the point where Kujaku found an object that can be able to prevent her from disappearing and stay on Earth, Kujaku decides to use this item to heal Gaara of her scar and just, kind of calm her down. It kind of works, but it doesn't necessarily work, because after Kujaku healed Gaara, you find out that her good side, the good spirit of Gaara, is now ascended with Kujaku in, I guess you could say, in Peacock Heaven. So it's some around the point within the back end of the show, like the last 6 episodes, the final arc of the show, things get very wonky and very confusing. So that's where it gets a little bit wonky. But Gaara is a formidable foe. You can see throughout the show, she really hates Kujaku with a passion, and she's a force to be reckoned with. Now let's move on to the next Gorma general, Zydos. Zydos, I feel like he gets strings along too much. He is a force to be reckoned with. He isn't without his faults, but trust me, when he wants the Gorma to succeed in winning and becoming the force that the Gorma want to rule the earth, Zydos is definitely that individual. I feel like he's more of the mad scientist for the Gorma army because that's what it feels like. And when it came to the point where he was fighting the Dairangers, especially in their Ultrazord form, he lost to that form twice. First time he got squashed to the point of a piece of paper and flies into the wind. The second time he gets defeated, but then it's revealed that as he got defeated, his body turns into clay. And that's what happens to all the generals. Pretty much everyone in the Gorma palace get turns into clay. And that was a big plot hole that I had with the show. And it never ever gets explained. It never gets resolved. It never goes into bigger detail whatsoever. So that's really not much to say about Zydos or the Gorma generals. All right, so the next person to talk about is Gorma Emperor 15. So, like I said, he is the true emperor of the Gorma. Shaddam is trying to kill him so he can become the next Gorma Emperor and lead them into a reign of terror. But the good thing is, I won't say good thing, interesting about Gorma 15 is that he doesn't necessarily get his hands dirty. He's always in the palace on a high stand, always controlling the generals. He has a caring heart for Akumaru, and that's about it. He always treats the Gorma generals like dirt all the time. So, and that's pretty much all I can say about him. The next group of characters to talk about are the Three Stooges. Now, these three characters kind of form a bond with Shoji. As you can see the pattern here, there's the Rangers, and there's also a supporting character that cares about that bonds with the Rangers. So the Three Stooges, they challenged the Dairangers on 3 occasions. The first occasion was a game of soccer. Second time was a game of baseball. And the third time was a race between Shoji to race to the flag. Now, these characters are silly, hilarious, but the funny thing is about these characters is that they do have a caring heart. Zydos is the one that always sends them out to destroy the Dairangers, but they always fail. And then when it came to that race, Zydos was trying to kill one of the Dairangers by saying, look, let the Dairanger cross the finish line, because when he does, he'll die. But the leader, Kamikaze, he's the one that decides to cross the finish line and saves Shoji's life. And that kind of leads, a little bit of a bond between Shoji and Kamikaze. So they're a very interesting group. Kamikaze, who's basically a motorcycle, President Gravestone, who's literally a tombstone, and Sensei Telephone. That's basically who they are. They're silly characters, goofy, but they are kind at heart. Now, on to the last character to talk about, Jin. Jin, the episodes that Jin gets, it's very interesting. And his introductory episodes were phenomenal. There's a battle that he has with Ryo, and he's basically Ryo's rival. And there's a point where Jin is beating the snot out of Ryo, and it beats him down hard. But when Ryo's able to get the upper hand against Jin, he's able to take him down really fast. And then he gets this evil power because of Zydos, because Zydos wants to create a warrior of strong fighting skills. And Jin is that person. But of course, Jin wants to be a person that focuses only on himself. And the sad thing is he comes from a tragic background because he was trained by his father. And when he almost fell off over a cliff, his father didn't save him. His father cut his hand off. And ever since then, he had to live with a metal arm. And because of that, he kills every single martial arts individual and school and sensei in the city to prove that he is the best. And it is just savage, straight up savagery. But through it all, he forms a bond with Ryo, even though it starts off as a rivalry, but it slowly becomes a bond, but it also tends to lead to his downfall in the end. But he's still a great character overall. And yes, his actor is played by Tranza from Jetman. And that's basically all the characters. Like I said, within the final arc of the show, it does get very muddy. There's a lot of plot holes, and it just does a little bit of too much. But overall, the show is still GOAT. I love the show. Flaws and all, it is definitely as up there as one of the best Sentais of the 90s. Straight up. I would definitely recommend this show for everybody. And the show is available to stream on Tubi TV, and also you could purchase it physically on Amazon as well. I'll be leaving a link for it in the description below. So guys, that is my review of Dairanger. In the comment section below, what did you think of Gosei Sentai Dairanger? Did you think it was good? Did you think it was bad? Are you in between on it? Let me know in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching this review, and stay tuned for the next Super Sentai review, which is going to be on Ninja Sentai Kaku Ranger, which is actually celebrating its 30th anniversary this year. So it's going to be a good occasion to be rewatching Kaku Ranger, because I've only watched the show once, and I'm really looking forward to rewatching that show. So in the meantime, stay tuned for that review. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and click that bell to be notified. Follow me on all my socials. Until then, I am Vengeance, I am Darkness, I am Blackwing. Stay golden.